Good morning, everyone. Hello. Good to see you all around here. Am I audible? Am I audible? Can you hear me? Okay, good. Now, you just add a bit, so I will speak quietly because we have 2 days ahead and we need to talk and talk, particularly me. I will make you talk, of course, too. Toda, not much. Reasonable. However, again, good morning, everyone. Happy to see you here, happy to be here, and happy to see some familiar faces, not only from Nadiad, who are, of course, good friends of mine, but also from away. And some are familiar to me from previous occasions, and I'm happy to see you here. Honestly speaking, I wasn't expecting to see that many of you on that short notice. I thought, okay, about 100 perhaps will come. But anyway, thank you. Take it as a thank you thing for joining. I will try my level best, and of course, the SAG and ELMS and SGSU are also contributing the best they can to make you comfortable here. All right. I will try my level best not to overload you. Take it as like a visit and have a look around, enjoy your stay, enjoy communicating to each other, because that's an important part of the seminar. It's not that I have to talk or you have to listen, no. It's a teaching and learning experience, and it is a communication between you, and this is one of the occasions where you can talk to each other, communicate to each other, share with each other, and of course I will share something with you, and I hope you share something with me. All right, so that is the first thing to mention. Number two, one of the main reasons we are running this seminar is to awaken your critical thinking. We all know and we all read papers, internet, books, that stuff, this stuff. And we tend to take it for granted that whatever we read or wherever people are just delivering to you in the form of talks or presentations is kind of truth and nothing but the truth. I will try today and tomorrow to show you that it's not always that way. And something which you may read or something which may be delivered to you as something to follow in training, in coaching, in long-term athlete development may not necessarily be A, correct, may not necessarily be B, practical, and may not necessarily C, lead you to your objectives. And you may be surprised how many occasions and how much of such information is up there in the net, which is again contradictory, too theoretical, impractical, not proven. We used to say, okay, evidence-based. So there has to be an evidence of something. If there is no evidence, then how would you realistically take it for granted, or how you should actually trust that? So you are people who create evidence. You're coaches, and that's I'm always trying to explain to my students back there in Malaysia or elsewhere that, look, sports science is different from physics, from chemistry, from any other science, because those science, theories and discoveries are coming from the labs or from the mind of scientists. In sports science, theories are not coming from the minds of scientists, particularly in coaching, particularly in training methodology. Those theories are coming from your minds. You are the ones to try something different. You are the ones to suggest something different, and then you prove that right or you prove that wrong, and then scientists coming to you, okay, what are you doing here? Share some knowledge, share some experience, share some information. And I've done this thing and done that, and it does work. Let's make an experiment on that. So I have an evidence. And then, no, it has to be scientifically proven. It has to be validated. It has to be, statistically correct. And then they say, aha, now the depth jump, which has been known for centuries together, like you jump down and jump up, it suddenly becomes plyometrics. Scientific. Was it born in the head of the scientist? No. It's been born in the head of coach. And coaches are actually in front or ahead of that whole thing. And scientists are kind of helping somewhere not helping much. So it's not always win-win situation, we have to admit that too. So I would like you to think critically of everything we'll be discussing in these 2 days. And there'll be a lot of information which we will need to talk about, and I will request your opinions on that, and so on and so forth. So critical thinking, number one. So please do not hesitate to ask your questions, to interrupt if you feel like, or ask it later at the end of the sessions. We will have, obviously, questions and answers things. No hesitation, all right? Because your view is important to me, and your view is practical, all right? Secondly, I would like you also to think about extra things, all right? So in about 5 minutes I will start the first presentation. Something you will see, whatever is known to you, something you will see maybe not known to you, something is like a little bit of everything. However, please note down somewhere what you would like to hear from me, or to share something with you which will not be covered in today and tomorrow presentations. Anything on earth. You want to know something, or you want to have an opinion, or want to share something, just ask a question or just send me a note. I will just, in the breaks or wherever, I'll dig out whatever I can from my external drives and something, and I'll share whatever I can with you on any other topic you feel like talking about. All right? Number 3 is that I was, of course, planning some sort of interaction and splitting you into smaller groups or subgroups, which perhaps we will do later stage, no worries, no issue. Think about a topic, each one of you, which you would like to dig into in depth. You can split academy-wise, or you can split topic-wise, or you say, okay, within a particular academy or within a particular location, you will have 1, 2, 3 topics, let's say talent development or talent identification, or strength conditioning, nutrition, anything on earth. And we will then later kind of fix those topics as something of your interest. And one good thing is happening, we are having now a pilot project, and perhaps we will go deeper into it with Swarnim Gujarat Sports University, that we will try to involve their students more into practical jobs. That's why I say, okay, Swarnim Gujarat is there. So that we may try their students as interns. That's what I'm saying. One pilot thing is happening now, seemingly successful. We'll make it wider. We will try also involve those students to actually help you out in those topics. Because see, there is always a job which you will like doing or you may not like doing. So we will try to give you some sort of a helping hand in the form and shape of the students, so they will of course learn from you and you can use them the way you want it. And interns are something which used to be badly exploited in other fields of knowledge and science. I mean, there are movies famous like medical in-house interns. Doctors are torturing them, giving them some tasks which they cannot fulfill. That would be exactly something like that. So you will have someone you can use any way you want. I mean, within reasonable boundaries, of course. Okay. So that is another one. And eventually, as I say, open questions, extra picking topics. So that will be about it. So before I go any further with the presentation, again I want to thank SAG and SGSU and the ELMS, of course, for giving me such an opportunity. And as I keep saying, There is no such thing as someone is teaching, someone is learning. We are actually doing kind of both. It's a teaching and learning experience. I teach something and learn something, and I always enjoy it. So again, thank you for coming. Time for us to start. So, anything you want to say from the beginning? Do that, don't do that, don't try this, don't do that at home. Anything? No? Okay, you're welcome to say anything you wanted on the way. As I say, it's kind of open session, right? So don't take it as like you just watch. I mean, walk around, use the facility. That can be used as nursery if you feel like. I've seen kids around, good, fine. So feel relaxed, right? I think I have a permission from the SAG that, yeah, it's all kind of yours for 2 days, right? No, it's yours anyway. Okay, topic 1, long-term athlete development, an overview. So let's start with something. First thing is that when we talk or we start talking like long-term development models, then the first, not to say contradiction, but the first thing comes, long-term athlete development or long-term talent development. Is it the same or is it different? We are developing every athlete, or we have to develop only the talented ones? Or how do we do that? And how do we run the whole thing? Then we have to recollect that, yeah, there is a pyramid and there is a mass participation somewhere where we practically are not supposed to care much about what's going on. I'm being honest with you. I'm not being scientific. I'm not being over-scientific, although I'm a sports scientist, okay, fine. But I'm also a coach. My degree is in coaching. So I guess then I can say something what I'm about to say. So then, quite often, people start asking questions. Okay, talent identification. Do you start it from the beginning, from the very beginning somewhere, the mass participation? I would say no, you don't need to. Particularly in sports like in India, you take cricket. Okay, do you need sports science there? No. That's kind of fittest survives, or Darwin's theory, modified of course, works easily. You know, the flow is in crores and crores of kids, and then the best one still kind of gets through. Then, of course, we have other sports which are not that lucky with participants. We take wrestling in Haryana. Do we need sports science at the beginning? Ah, come on. Those kids will just fight each other, wrestle each other, and the best one will wrestle up, 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 and up. And then, at some point of time, then scientists come. Yes, now we know what to do with you. Like coaches don't know. Ha, ha, ha. Okay, but of course we are trying to help you out in whatever possible way. But coaching is supposed to be a domain where you are at your best. So, on the other hand, we are still kind of talking talent. Why? Because governments, states, SAGs, state authorities, they kind of trying to fund sort of everything, every, I would say, DLSS or every sports call. But then the question comes, and that will be one of our discussion points. Do we require, I'm not making a government policy here, please, don't take it that way. I mean, although we are in touch with policymakers, we are trying to add some technical expertise into policy issues so that you will not work against the system. That the system will be adjusted in such a manner that you will be doing your job, enjoying what you're doing and delivering at the same time. So, the question is, do we need to develop every DLSS or every spot in the country like in the same equal manner? The good thought came from coaches, not from scientists, not from administrators. You, coaches, are saying, no, we need to identify some DLSSs which would be properly feeding us a talent for the academy. We cannot grab from everywhere. It doesn't work that way. You can identify the ones which you feel are better equipped, got better coaches, got better teaching, better education, whatever, so that you, as a higher level coaches in the academies, would be happily picking those kids and not complaining that, look, I am picking a kid and I have to teach that kid again the basics of skills or basics of technique. They'll be already done, say, at the age of like 10 to 12 or 13, and then you pick them from DLSS to the academy under 14. And then both parties are happy, provided, of course, that DLSS people or coaches are also acknowledged. So you are getting good materials from them, win-win. Otherwise, the situation unfortunately goes into such direction that some of you will be complaining, DLSS are not sharing, DLSS are not getting us a proper talent, and so on and so forth. So we have to run our own identification of talent, and then we have to run through Khel Mahakumbh or state competitions. But then you're again hitting a wall, because at the moment, your sports authority will say, you take only the winners. Number 1, number 2. And then you look at them and you see there is a current performance, but there is no potential in those kids. They have limitations. They are currently best performing, but they may not be currently the best potential. So, performance you can create yourself. You are coaches, you are well educated. But if you don't have potential with you, you are limited in your outcomes. So you need someone to be selected, not necessarily on performance, but on the potential. How to do that? We'll of course discuss later today. So in those models which we are going to share today, there are kind of 3 levels. This one is more like in administrative hands. These are with sports sciences, theoretical, people who are creating those models, and we will be discussing those. This is where the thing starts. You see something unusual, you see something you think wrong, talk about it. All right? Of course, I will be also commenting of what I see right or wrong, but I need your feedback as well. Okay, so theories, right? So what about? That's a good theoretician there, right? Baby's oil. Okay. Now, there are 3 major, like, big ones, like theories, like Mota theories, all right? 1985, Bloom's, 94, Erickson, Cotenhay, 2002. I will not go into those many, I mean all of them, because this actually was created years ago, and it was actually a model of achieving excellence. Excellence as such, as a bigger like thing, not necessarily in sports, in anything. Lawyers, scientists, mathematicians, anyone. So it was a good one, quite comprehensive. Objectives of those stages, transitions, and so on, but not that kind of popular these days. There are 2 more popular, and then one was of Erickson's, adopting an extreme environmental position, proposed a theory of expertise predominantly based on what was termed as deliberate practice, right? In 2002, family support children in their initiation and development of high-level performance, patterns of family dynamics that contributed to success, and so on and so forth. Before I move into that Erickson's theory, let me remind you of what are the major domains we are actually dealing with. Let's say, and that will be actually reflected in the models which we are going to talk about, in the latest one from Canada. Pre-sports activities, right? The kids are not born into sports, right? Until and unless they are born to sports-related mothers, fathers, coaches, and so they give them a racket at 3 years of age, or whatever, a golf club at 3, like Tiger Woods. Steffi Graf started playing tennis at 3, Tiger Woods started playing golf at 2 something, or 3. Of course, there are examples of kids who were kind of doing stuff from very early years. However, we will also think of, okay, family as a contributing factor, and that contributes from the very beginning. Preschool, pre-sports, right? That's family. And, okay, coaching, training, like school, physical education, and then also a community. right? Because community is also an important factor which contributes to that. So is it a sporting community? It's not a sporting community. In our case, it is important to think of the whole country perhaps as a community. Of course, you will have certain states perhaps more active, certain states less, but still family, community, and involvement in kind of physical activity like schooling and coaching, training in like sports as such. So, having said that, we will actually get into that Erikson's model, deliberate practice. It's a kind of thing and a word which is like quite often heard and used as describing the situation. So what are the points in Erikson's model which are applicable to you and to us as a long-term athlete development? Okay, let's check it out. The number of hours of deliberate practice accumulated in a domain is a significant determinant of the level of expertise attained. Translating into our language of coaching. Okay, the more we practice, the better expertise we've got, right? Now, start thinking critically. Is more always better? Kind of 50-50. I'm not asking does size matter, I'm asking like if more is always better. We'll get to that. Now, the second one. Researchers have found that experts invest more hours, say training, per week, all right? We will also talk a lot of figures these 2 days, numbers, we'll exercise a little bit of arithmetics, compared to novices. Check this out. That sounds a little bit kind of too scientific, but that's a point we will get back to and we will have a lot rotating around it. Now, experts invest more hours of practice per week compared to novices and start engaging in deliberate practice at younger age. Is it again 100% true or not necessarily true? Now, and I'll bring you back to that point. Experts. Who are experts in our context? Your senior athletes, right? The ones who are at the national level, the ones who are approaching national level. Novices are the ones which are just joining. So novices could be under 12, under 14, but they are not exactly novices. They already trained, say, in DLSS. So they join, all right? And then they are supposed to have different hours of involvement in training. Do they have different hours involvement in training? No, they don't. Why? You start at 6:30 with everyone, you finish at 9 with everyone, isn't it? You don't have a luxury of running under 14 for kind of smaller or shorter duration session, and then under 17 and larger, and then under 21 and under 23 kind of long sessions. You don't do that. Why is a different story. How to make it happen is also a different story. Both we will be discussing today. But this is one of the key points. Novices are not supposed to train as long hours as the experts. Otherwise, we are in trouble. What kind of trouble? We'll talk later, of course. And the last one, it was related, right, revealed that it is impossible for individuals with less accumulated practice at a given age to catch up with the best individual who started deliberate practice earlier. Okay, let me again translate and give you an example. There are sports in which you start early, right? Do we have gymnastics here? All right, 1, 2, okay. Artistic or rhythmic? Rhythmic, right. Example for rhythmic gymnastics. For instance, you kind of got girls who are at the age of 10 with you already for roughly 3 years, all right? And suddenly a mother brings, or DLSS shows and brings a girl who is like perfectly built, like perfect anthropometry, and say, take this girl, she is a really future star, and she can catch up. You'll say, no, I won't do that. Why? Because that kid has no chance against those kids who started at 7 and have already 3 years of experience. They are already state champions. It will take you another 3-4 years to do something with that talented girl, but with no experience, and she will still not hit the national level at the age of 14. It will be too late. On the other hand, if you are talking boxing, we got to boxing here? All right. Wrestling, and I know my good friend will not agree with me, yeah, that you can pick a talent for wrestling at the age of 12, 13, 14, even a raw one, and in boxing, and still get a champion out of that kid at the age of 18, 19, 20. So there are sports in which you cannot start late, and that will not work realistically. But there are sports where you can. You take current boxing world champions in professionals. AJ started at a very late age, Anthony Joshua. He started at about 15, being boxer. He was like a football player before. I mean that American football, not the one. So Americans somehow grabbed that word football, and now the only American football is football. European is just soccer. Okay, so never mind. So there are sports in which that particular point works, and there are sports in which that particular sport doesn't. So the other guy from Ukraine, my country fellow Usyk, who bet AJ recently in that, and then they are now having a rematch. He was a football player, and reasonably good one, like soccer player, all right, state level. And then again, 14, 15 years of age, he kind of moved into boxing. No issue. So this can actually be, not to say compromised, but readjusted. Whereas it cannot be readjusted for gymnastics, it cannot be readjusted for acrobatics, may not be readjusted for diving. No, it's not happening. So that is why I keep saying, look, we need to look at things critically. Don't take it like that everything is right. It's kind of known people, huge scientists. I mean, they are, right? If you take references, like be thousands of references and so on, so everyone referring to that. But practicality-wise, particularly in our field, it may not necessarily be that way that it is presented. So just take it critically, pick something which is kind of realistically works for you, not necessarily follow the same thing which is not realistically. So one of the kind of continuations of that deliberate practice is the very well-known Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000-hour rule. Everyone is talking 10,000 hours, 10 years, practice, excellence. Okay, fine. Let's have a look. How does it work? So, what is the meaning? All right, what they say is the 10,000-hour rule is just that. This is the idea that it takes approximately 10,000 hours of deliberate practice to master a skill. Okay, but they don't tell you what skill. All right? Is it a skill of photography? Is it a skill of journalism? Is it a skill of, like, I don't know, teaching or scientists or managing? They start converting into sports and say, okay, it takes 10,000 hours to create an athlete and an expert or a winner. Is that realistically true? Let's have a look. For instance, it would take 10 years of practicing 3 hours a day to become a master in your subject. It would take approximately 5 years of full-time employment to become proficient in your field. So far agreeable. Simply work out how many hours you have already achieved and calculate how far you need to go. You should be aiming at 10,000 hours. Again, whenever people are trying to match it with sports, they say, okay, 10,000 hours. You will not reach that in 10 years in sports. Why? Because it doesn't work that way. How does it work? Let's have a look. Say, okay, I put it the simple way. Did anyone try cheating? I mean, cheating on that rule. Okay, do you really necessarily have to spend that many hours? So then some of them said, yes, okay. 10,000 hours, how does it go? 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 44 weeks a year for 5.5. Okay, so it's not necessarily 10 years. Okay, you can still do it in 5.5, but then, if you pay attention to this, it means it's a full-fledged working day, 8 hours a day. It's a kind of office job. Is it applicable for sports? Not even world-class athletes are spending 8 hours a day in training. No, it's not that simple. However, you can say, okay, in 5.5 years, achievable. Fine. Other options? Yeah. Again, 8 hours, 5 days, 52 weeks, meaning what? 52 weeks, there is 52 weeks in a year. I mean what? No single week out, no holidays, no festivals, no nothing. You're just a slave. Okay, 52 weeks. Also not happening. 4.5 years, 4.8, yeah, you can achieve that. But again, it is not realistically practicable, and it is not realistically clicking for sports. Although so many international associations started kind of utilizing that. Hey, look, if you're a professional athlete or you are a football player in English Premier League, fine. You can still be in the team or in the top club for kind of up to the age of 30 plus. All right, so if you started somewhere at the age of 10, and then you took you about, say, 10 years to reach to some level, yes, you reach, but then you are maintaining. And when you do maintenance, it does not require that many hours in a way. So the maximum number of training hours are actually spent when you are climbing to your genetically determined maximum level. When you kind of reach there, it takes less time. Maintenance is not that, voluminous. So now, ask yourself a question, and that is sort of our first, not to say interaction, but let's say some kind of first talk thing. Realistically, does that rule, if you use it as such, is it applicable to everything, everyone? Right? For instance, does it apply to athletes? I would say no. Of course, country to country is different. Socium to socium is different. Something which may work for US or for Europe may not work for India. All right? So even to the extent that we quite often don't even have an athlete, even a talented one, with us for 10 years. And coaches know, you know that better than anyone else. Because I'm not blaming anyone, trust me on that. You are kind of framed into the situation when you have to deliver results quickly. In a limited period of time. Why? Because parents of your talented kids will tell you, we need to perform before the college, then we use the university quota. Okay, fine. Then what you say? No, I will not do that. I will wait until that kid becomes mature and then he or she performs. Oh, come on. That kid will no more be with you. That kid will be sitting somewhere in the college becoming a doctor or a lawyer or whosoever, whatever the parents decided for him or for her. So you are limited to certain age group. Parents are pushing that they need earlier performance. Then, for whatever other reasons, you will be actually in a situation when you have to deliver early. And then you know that something like at the age of 15, 16, top at 18, that kid will leave you. And then you have to deliver performance because you are a professional, right? And that kid has to perform, and parents want then performance. So it's kind of, unsigned agreement of a social kind of communication and a social achievement. However, is it okay for coaches? I would say perhaps yes. If you are doing what you're doing, like after graduation, for instance, so you start becoming a specialist, a professional, then I may say, fine, you're coaching kind of, 6 or 7 hours a day. So then you are becoming better and better and better and better specialist at a particular point of time. Then you say, okay, perhaps from the graduation to becoming an expert coach, okay, it may take about 10 years. Why not? Possible. But that is nothing which you are kind of enforcing. It goes on kind of regularly, like flow. Same said about scientists, said, same to be with managers. However, again, if you are talking scientists, I will still maintain the theory, which is not very popular, by the way, in the US or in Europe. They say, okay, you can be scientists, and I mean, myself, we are teaching scientists in sports science who have no idea what the sports is. They are not ex-athletes. They're just smart kids from level whatever. They're kind of joining as sports scientists. So we have to teach them what the sport is. They have no idea. They don't know sports as such. They don't know sports socially. They don't know how the system works. They have no idea what wrestling or boxing or gymnastics is. They have never done that before. Now, imagine that sports scientist coming to your ground and say, you do something wrong. Yeah, okay. That's why I keep teaching my students. I say, look, the moment you decide to approach a coach, you just think twice. Just read whatever you can, watch whatever you can. Then, if you think you're smart enough, then try approaching, suggesting something, talking to them, and just don't act like you are, I'm a bachelor or a master, whatever. So, and then the moment they feel that you are kind of, you are in trouble in a way. So you have to actually earn the trust, you have to earn, the respect. Having said that, this is particularly about certain areas, not every sports science. If you take biomechanics, if you take training methodology, of course you have to know the sports. And then physios, we have nutritionists here. Then of course they have to learn, and they do know. I know that they do. They're doing good job. So you're approaching different sports from a different angle. All right. So then there are two things which I'm also again telling my students. I say, look, please don't do that, or do that when you approach coaches. So please learn the game, the rules, everything. And please never say that you've contributed to someone winning a medal. Please don't. There's a big no. The best of you can expect is that some of the coaches may or may not acknowledge that they got some good support from you as a sports scientist or something. That's your best contribution, that's your best reward. The moment you say something that, we did that the medals are like we achieved, don't do that. Typically, okay, we don't have psychologists here, right? That's one of the reasons I'm not really a good friend with many psychologists, because psychologists typically do that. They say, yeah, good, last minute fixing, brainwashing, that stuff like. Forgive me, my friends psychologists, if you're watching that. So that typically is happening. We just opened that tap, we did this stuff, and that's why the medal came. And they're like, are you kidding me? Like, we were working for years together, we were struggling every day and night, and then suddenly you came like on a white horse and say, yay, go, the medal is there. So that is unfortunately also happening. However, the point again is that the sports science and practice and coaching is like something which has to go. And I still will say that if someone has been an athlete before, he or she may be a better sports scientist. Understanding the logic, understanding the feelings, understanding the sports as such. All right. Same thing as, like, many people will say that, yeah, okay, there is even debates on if you can be a good coach without being an athlete in that coach before. Europe is now going that way, and I keep watching and say, you cannot be serious. You cannot be serious of having sports scientists not having a sports background, but having a coach without being a sports background. I mean, I cannot imagine that at all. I mean, I understand that there could be people that were not athletes, but okay, but I have my doubts. All right, let me now show some arithmetics here in relation to that 10,000 hours. Okay, and I've also mentioned that point at the beginning. Do we have to have same number of training hours for beginners and for expert. What is year 1 here is actually the training age, right? For instance, like you got someone in DLSS, that would be year 1. Next, year 2, 3, 4, so 10 years of actually training age, all right, for instance. So if that is like 12 or 10, if that's 10 years, then that will be 20, right? If that is 11, then 21, and so on and so forth. Now, if we look at, we call it typically sufficient amount of practice, all right? So sufficient amount of practice for beginners is roughly about 200 hours a year. It's not supposed to be 1,000. It cannot be physically be 1,000. Okay, if we say this one is the year 1, what is it? It's a kid practicing on the sports for all level. It can be, you know, a sports school somewhere in the state. It can be anything. So it's not yet serious involvement, all right? So we say, okay, 1.5 hours per session, roughly 3 sessions a week, alternative days, all right? All right, per week it comes to about 4.5, 5 hours if you count 40 weeks per year, minus holidays, minus festivals, minus visiting grandparents and whatever. It comes kind of 40 weeks per year. You multiply 4.5 into 40 weeks, you'll get the number, 180. Okay. Same goes year 2, year 3, for instance. All right, 350 per year, another 350 per year. And somewhere here, perhaps, be a time. Is it, you can still hear me that way? Or I have to do something like that? This is better, or that better, that better? Which one? It's okay now? Okay, because I cannot hear myself well. Now, if we say that somewhere here, that kid, or here, it was supposed to be adopted or taken into DLSS, and then at some point in time, say after 3 years, let's say it's 10 years, 11, 12, and then year 4, for instance, is a time when you kind of supposed to take that kid into academy, absorb that kid if he or she actually proved to be talented, got into certain type of training in DLSS, but the issue is that I'm sure, I mean, I'm telling you openly and truthfully and honestly, I didn't check any numbers on DLSS. So, but I somehow have a feeling that you will still be doing more than 350 hours a year in DLSS, isn't it? You'll have more than that, right? Because you are again getting them into the system whereby morning session starts at 7, finishes at 9, and then evening session starts at 4 and finishing at 6, right? It would be something like that. So straight away you are getting kind of 4 hours a day, and then you will be having like, okay, 2 and 2, yeah, 4, 10, 40 hours per week, which is actually not even supposed to be here. It's supposed to be somewhere when you are reaching higher level of performance. And that is something which we are trying to adjust now in Nadia Academy, so that you have a progression. You all know what the progression is. If we keep giving kids the same frame of training hours from day to day, from week to week, from year to year, at this training age, we have nowhere to improve. It's becoming as simple as that. You do the same volumes years together, you get used to it. In medicine and in physiology, there is a term, dose-response principle. Right? You give a certain dose, you expect certain response. If that dose is the same and the same and the same and the same, there is no more response. It kind of flows kind of flat. We'll get back to that anyway. So what my point here is that if you take 10 years from the scratch of deliberate practice to reach the high performance level, it will roughly take about 7,000 hours, not 10. And see, it reaches the level of about 1,000 after about 5-6 years of training. then it comes to a certain level. And again, that will be also not necessarily that number, because sprinters will not need that much time on training. Throwers, jumpers, they may not need that much time. Endurance athletes, however, will need more, because endurance takes time. The skills need more time in games, volleyball, basketball, handball. You need more time, because you need not only to develop physiological issues, not only like strength and conditioning, you have to do a lot of various skills, and then team cohesion, and then tactics, and many, many, many other things. So training time will be, of course, more. All right. So, having said that, we'll try to wrap that whole thing into numbers, into figures, and see how it works. And of course, the first session we will be actually completing with evolution of those long-term athlete development models. So we will see how it all started, where it all began, and then how do we actually move around. So there were a few models which are kind of universally accepted. Some from various countries, one from India, 1991, Hardel Singh. So you can say that, not to say that the first really, but I would say still, like scientifically speaking, one of the first long-term development models came from East Germany, all right? Dietrich Harre was the one who actually developed. And then there were like one from Ukraine, from our place, another one from India, Canada, and Canada somehow is now becoming a leader in that long-term athlete development models. However, having said that, again, I would like you to get back again to your critical thinking. Don't take everything for granted. Let's look at it critically and see. Some models are having some positive issues, some models are having some negative issues. So we'll start from the beginning. Why it is important? Because I would still say that original 1971 model is way more applicable, for instance, as compared to many other models which we will be talking about today. Have a look. This is the guy. Basic training or foundation training, right? Split into two subphases, depending on the group of sports. See, in 1971 he was thinking that way. After that we will see other models. Some people just dropped it. Some people readjusted that. So he was suggesting that in technical sports, I mean, back then they used the term technical sports. Now we are using technical sports as something like motor racing and, Formula One. That is more like artistic sports or agility sports, all right? So in agility sports like gymnastics or acrobatics, phase 1, 5 to 7 or 9 years, that early, even back then. Phase 2, 10 to about 15 years of age. In power sports, 9 to 12, and then continuing in 13 to 18. Endurance sports, phase 1, 11 to 13, phase 2, 14 to 18. What does it mean? It means that, say, as mentioned already, you will have younger sports which are getting recruitment done earlier for obvious reasons. And that again, that will be gymnastics, acrobatics, diving, a bit few more. But as you see here, there are no sports like power sports or combats or strength endurance sports. So please do not take, and I know many of you are actually in favor of early specialization. I know that. And I also know the reasons why you are in favor of that. And some of those reasons already have been spoken. Early specialization allows early performance. I repeat, I'm not blaming anyone for choosing that pathway. Life pushes you towards that. So that is happening, but it may not supposed to happen. And I know that some of you will say, no, I will pick boxers, I will pick wrestlers, or I'll pick judo players at the age of 9 or 8. I would still say, why do you really need that? Don't do that. You can still pick them even later than that. right? 9 or 12 or something like that. Because again, please remember, when we pick early, they usually quit early. They don't survive those 10 years for various reasons. I mean, surviving, I mean, they are not staying, they're quitting earlier. And sometimes not due to overload, not to something else, but they're kind of getting bored, or it's kind of becoming kind of a bit useless for them, or it doesn't look like they really push themselves to some exhaustion. It does happen that way. And I spoke to the coaches many times in gymnastics and in acrobatics. Although the age is mentioned, like sometimes even 5, you all know, particularly ones of you with kids, the kid doesn't know exactly what he or she is doing at the age of 5. They will move around, yes, but they will not have a clue of actually why they are doing something, or why they do have to do that, or they don't have to do that. Yes, there will be some spontaneous kind of teaching, so spontaneous learning. Yes, there will be some spontaneous physical development, and yes, moving around will help to develop a kid physically, skills-wise. We will talk about that later. They will perhaps master the fundamental movement skills earlier than their peers. Fine, this is all good. But it's not actually the way of getting them into high-performance sports. However, again, you will have examples of Steffi Graf or Tiger Woods or others who actually joined early. So, advanced training or master's training, technical sports 15 to 18 or something, power sports, different age, and so on and so forth. See, he is not mentioning anything about specialization age. Although it's more or less takes as granted basic training, foundational, and then advanced training, master's training. So somewhere in between, most probably this one, phase 2, is supposed to be taken as a specialization age, or kind of spending much more time in specific training. So I would suggest that phase 1 more like a basic one, specializing starts somewhere here, and then getting into excellence at somewhere here, like starting from 15. However, I keep saying that, and I repeat again and again, when the word is used, specialized training, please don't take it as you don't do anything specialized up to the age of 12, and then suddenly you start doing everything specific after the age of 12. No, it doesn't work that way. It is always a combination. It is always a ratio of general conditioning and specific conditioning, the ratio of basic skills and fundamental movements and specific movements. Of course, there is always a specific training, certain degree of it, but it's not supposed to be too much at the beginning if you are looking kind of towards some sort of, you know, as we call it, optimum age of sports, of top performance. But then again, being a proponent sometimes of optimum age of top performance, say, which is, for example, in athletics, like 23 years of age. Say, take jumps, for instance. Is there a performance before 23? We cannot afford the luxury of coaching someone years together to say that, okay, he or she will perform at 23. He will not be with us at the age of 23. He or she will leave earlier. And we will have to also perform earlier because there are competitions to perform. Under 14, under 17, under 19. So this becomes kind of a bit tricky. Optimum age is 23, so every other age is not optimum. So do we perform here or do we not? Do we train someone, a perfectly kind of, you know, early mature kid who has an advantage? We say, no, we will wait another 5 years. Why? If someone is a perfect early mature to perform at the age of under 17, do it. He or she may not have that advantage later. So, and then later you wait for some time, and then everyone is already of the same height, kept catching up, picking up, and then no more advantage. So it means that you kind of wasted it. So don't waste it. So then the question of optimum age of top performance becomes kind of tricky. And I will bring you back to that point, of course, later today. The model from 84, Platonov. I happen to be blessed. He's my mentor from years ago, and when I was doing my PhD, he was Deputy Vice Chancellor in Science, and we are still in touch. So I treat him as my guru or mentor. So, initial training. He suggested 5 stages, about a year. Preliminary, 2 or 3 with having overall development in mind. 3 to 4 years to master highly specialized skills and obtain specific fitness of selected sports. Now, you will ask me a question. Where is this happening? Where is this happening? Where is that happening? I would say these 2 are actually supposed to happen somewhere at the LSS level. Or somewhere at the schools where kids are actually beginning practicing and being identified by the coaches, so that when they finish 1 and 2, they come to the academies like here in Nadiad or elsewhere to actually start doing that. They're not supposed to do this and this in the academy. That's what we were discussing many times with the SG and with higher authorities. And again, some of you guys are saying, we need to kind of select kids of under 12 and place them in the academy. And I'll say why. And we all know the answer. Most of you will say, because the kids which we are getting from DLSS are wrongly trained. They are not good, they are not technically sound, technically correct. We have to kind of teach them. And then again, we are bumping into the same issue. Then try identifying DLSS which can contribute good and well-trained athletes to you. So then SG will supposed to actually identify those on your advice. All right? So you will be happy to contribute to get the talent from some DLSS. Not everyone. Limited numbers, direct connection, better supplied, better supported, better coaches, then you're happy. So then people in the DLSS do this, and you do that now. You don't need to take them early into the academy to teach them from the scratch. This is not the job what you have to do in the academies. Because in the academies, you have to deliver excellence. And if again that kid entered at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, fine, under 14, all right, perform. Your first serious performance is under 14. That's what basically we have to worry about. Or, not to say worry about, but to cater for. And then, everything goes fine then, under 13, under 17, under 19, and then when they do specializing here and you are taking them well and good in the academy, do specialization, do maximum realization of individual potential. This is where we are climbing towards the excellence and to sort of realistically national and international performance. And then we do maintain it, at least we kind of maintain it before the talented kid is either, sorry to say that, but it's a reality which bites sometimes, getting a job opportunity, and then you say, okay, take that job, bye. And your sub-elite athlete, who was supposed to join the international level, takes the job at the police or LIC or elsewhere, and then we look at it and say, so okay, we were trying to assist you guys, coaches, to sort of develop that particular individual into international level athlete, but then we cannot stand a kind of competition. The job is chosen over performance. We were discussing that, for instance, also with Deepak, and say, okay, if this is a high performance center, then we either have to kind of mention somewhere that yes, everyone has contributed and coaches did a great job of delivering that fellow performing at the international level, and suddenly, ding, the dish has been cooked and taken away to some other restaurant. Okay, gone. Then, where is the performance? The performance picked the job over the excellence. What can we do? But we still can do, and that is again the point where I want your opinion as well, because we, luckily, this time around have a good establishing rapport with SG and with ministry and with GSU, so that we can actually, seemingly, will have a shot at advising a bit how to go on technicalities of the sports policy. If we will be adjusting those technicalities in your favor, then it will be actually a better option and better choice for you, better chance for you to actually show and showcase your performance and so on and so forth without losing it. And this, of course, we will be discussing at a later stage. The next one, Hardel Singh, a good friend of mine. We worked together a couple of years in Patiala when I was back here in India in Sai years ago. So he developed his own model of long-term athlete development. And Hardel actually was Germany educated. So his obviously his basic ideas were influenced by East Germany. So he did a good job of actually getting into more details of long-term athlete development, right? Basic training, although if you ask me, I would say it's a little bit too lengthy, 3 to 4. Advanced training, about 4 years, and then high-performance training. And he suggested that, yes, technical sports, 15 to 19. He made a better split into different sports, like power sports. His wife is an international discus thrower, right? Kamaljit Kaur, right? So then endurance sports, combats, team games, and so on and so forth. But again, and I want again your critical thinking and your inputs here. If we talk about artistic sports at 15 years of age, of high performance training, okay, leave it. Sorry, I mean, don't blame me in picking or chopping the young sports out. But if you look at power sports and everything else, you see it's 19 plus. Now, think about one sad thing. How many kids you are getting into academy at the age of under 14, and then eventually how many of them are still with you at the age of 19 and 20 and 21? I'm afraid there'll be not many. So, in fact, when you are supposed to begin your high performance training with all the equipment, with all the facilities, with all the nutritional support, with all the kind of physio support, with everything, many of them will no more be around. They will be either picking the job, or they will be picking an education, or whatever else. So, however, that still is an option, and this is actually where we will have to say and admit that, okay, at this particular age, there's supposed to be already some sort of a national level performance. Youth, junior, or senior. And it's not about sub-juniors or cadets anymore. See, we all used to the point that, yeah, okay, we are doing great in cadets, okay, we are doing great in sub-juniors, but then they are getting lost for the reasons which we will be discussing later, of course. Okay, the first English published sort of training methodology author, Tudor Bompa, from Canada, actually portrayed the whole thing in a really simplistic four-modal thing. Long-term training, generalized and specialized. Generalized including initiation, foundation, and then specialized including specialization and high performance. Now, age-wise, as you can notice here, for whatever reasons, he didn't keep it, again, specialization-wise. He just offered a age-related model. Initiation, athletes of 6 to 10 years of age, and with focus on overall athletic development and non-sport specific performance. It doesn't work again that way. Although it sounds non-sport specific performance, but you cannot keep a kid away from specialization anyway. If that kid is a swimmer, what? You don't swim? If that kid is a tennis player, you don't play tennis? Of course you do. But there will be no focus. However, it will have to be there. Foundation. 11 to 14, emphasis should be on developing skills and motor abilities, but not performance and winning. Also not that simple. Performance has to be there a bit. Winning may not necessarily be an objective. However, where is no winning, there is no motivation. That's another point which is important to observe. If you're not winning, if you don't feel success, and the kids are not really kind of felt that way, they'll be quitting kind of. So, specialization for athletes of 15 to 18, there's always a struggle, early specialization, late specialization. But it's not that simple that, again, you say, okay, specialization only 15 years and over. Gymnasts, acrobats at the age of 15, they are already national champions. How is that we are not having a specialization on them? It doesn't work again. So, that is how, when you remove the logic of sports or belonging to a particular sports from these models, they kind of become sort of baseless, sorry to say. Because, okay, scientifically speaking, it may be correct. And 94, of course, was a different kind of period of time and different take on that. Then high performance of at least 19 and above years to age to achieve high performance. I will bring you to the point today or tomorrow, today, I think, after lunch, that we do face high performance much earlier than that. The issue, however, is that how do we mold your athletes into a performance, actually, kind of a ready state of physique, technique, skills, and everything else. Because you will have to perform, otherwise your administrators will not be happy with you. So you have to deliver performance at certain points in time, and your kids are supposed to deliver performance at certain point in time. One of the latest models, which actually is kind of one of the most popular these days, is from Canada again, and the author is Istvan Bally, and this is how he presented the whole thing. Now, it doesn't realistically matter much how many stages are there or how many steps are there. If you take, for instance, a look at Platonov's model, like with 5 stages, like initial, preliminary, specialized, and so on, maintenance, and we'll say, okay, Bally's has 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then, if you take a closer look, you'll see that, okay, that the first one, known as active start, is again out of the school setting, and it is out of the sports setting. It is something which sits with family and community. All right? The thing which I was telling you at the beginning, that we have to actually consider those. So active starts, it is what happening before the kid has been assigned to sports, or even before the kid has been actually taken to school. All right? Of course, that will be not here, in the next presentation, and how that is to be taken care by, again, family, community, and no other things. How I typically call this area or this stage is pre-talent identification, talent development. It sounds a little bit kind of lengthy and a bit kind of clumsy, but that's what is happening. When we talk about talent development, we should not just think about ourselves or you as coaches. With all due respect, you are not the ones who start developing a talent. You only pick a talent. You keep developing it further. But before you identified someone as a talent, that talent has been developing by parents, by community, by anyone else, whoever is getting involved. So, there is a potential for the development in every kid, right? One way or another. And that kid is being developed before being assigned to a particular sport, before getting in your hands as coaches. So you pick that talent based on certain qualities, on certain markers, right, on certain variables. And those have been developed before you saw that kid. So you pick it and you start developing that talent into the direction which you require. But the basic talent development starts much earlier. It starts kind of from the scratch, from the zero, from birth, maybe even before that. Genetics is such thing that you can say, okay, your talented kid is being developed from the time of conception, I guess. That can also be said that way. Right? Something is happening. With or without you, it's a different story. So you pick that talent after you identify that. So then what happens? If you look again at the same model, the last one is what? Active for life. It's outside the sports participation anyway, right? So one is before, one is after. Meaning, you quit at whatever level you did it. We, however, always say that, okay, that model by default considers that everyone achieves, sort of professional level. I don't know why, but that fella always reminds me of Nadal, and I of course know that Nadal is a tennis player, right? So then somehow the facial characteristics are there. So that is how we say, okay, if we chop pre-sports phase and we chop off the post-sports phase, we still again get 5 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that will be sort of fundamentals, something which is again happening as initial training or whatever it is. The second one, and of course they wrapped it into a nice and well good sounding kind of mottos, fundamentals, learning to train, training to train, training to compete, and then training to win. So in a way, that is in a way equivalent of initial training, that is equivalent of basic training, that will be equivalent of specialized training, and that be equivalent of achieving the genetically determined maximum potential. And then the last one typically is a maintenance of whatever performance has been achieved. We, however, always have to remember that not everyone reaches here, right? Some are kind of quitting here, some are quitting here, some are quitting here. So eventually we only have the ones who are with us the whole way until, let's say, the top performance. And of course, it is always discouraging and sad to lose them at any level to, again, the job opportunities or to career opportunities or educational opportunities and whatsoever. So this is the one model which I'll get you through in the details in the next presentation. And before doing that, I would like to have some feedback from you. So, of course, I'm not saying that, yeah, okay, everyone has to talk. No. If you feel like talking, talk. If you don't feel like talking, don't. So, but the thing is that I would love you to start thinking into a certain direction that how do you do that stuff? And just imagine that you are actually doing what you're doing in your career, the coaching career or whatever other, and then which of the models, not saying you are following, but which actually fits your understanding of long-term athlete development in a better way. And we will, of course, keep rotating around that particular topic remaining period of time. So we will continue the next one in to detailing of that last long-term athlete development model, since it is kind of, say, the latest, and it is in a way the most popular around the world. However, I still request you to kind of think critically and take things in a critical manner, so that if you feel that something is not right or something doesn't fit, do not hesitate to mention it. Because of course I will be presenting kind of my take on those models and kind of what I feel workable, what I don't feel workable, and so on and so forth. All right? So if you got questions, remember, questions, something extra you want to know, your views, anything of that, and everything of that is welcome. Please say something. I'm meanwhile off myself. We still have about 20 to half an hour, so if you communicate within yourself, I don't mind that either. I can kind of start the second one right now, but I don't think that is a good idea. So please think of some sort of a feedback. Meanwhile, of course, okay, I'll put the slide from the second one, so that perhaps you can have a better look of what exactly the idea was on that model. All right, so active start here, 1 to 6 years of age, and again, like I was mentioning at the beginning, family and community. There is no inputs from you whatsoever at this age, and there is no input whatsoever from physical educationists. All right, fundamental training, boys 6 to 9, girls 6 to 8. That is when kids are getting noticed by physical educationists, from the coaches which are actually specializing early, like again gymnastics, acrobatics, diving. And this is what I typically call a fishing pond situation, that the coaches from early specialized sports are coming to the schools and they start fishing for those talents who are fitting into their understanding of requirements for those young kids. But every other coaches are not supposed to fish in that pond at this point in time, I would say. Other coaches from other sports are coming later, not at this age. They're coming 9 to 10, 10 to 11, and so on and so forth. So then they put it learning to train, training to train, and male, female somehow different, but I hope you notice that that is no split into different sports, and there is no split into events. So this is not an issue so far. All right? All right. Back to you guys. I won't mind if you keep quiet. That is also not an issue. You may need your time to get into the environment. Anyway, thank you for the first session. And if you have something to say, please say. If you don't have anything to say, enjoy. Lunch to be served soon. And then I'll see you after lunch.